Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're taking a bit of a detour from the usual stack of heavy academic journals or those sweeping sociological reports we normally look at.
Right, yeah, we're zooming in quite a bit today.
Microscopically in, actually. We're focusing on a single, very specific node in the internet's vast archive. We're looking at a blog post from a site called keynn.org.
It's a really fascinating choice, I have to say.
Yeah.
Because in a world of, high production YouTube tutorials and those 60-second TikTok hacks, this is, well, it's a throwback.
Totally.
It's text-heavy, it's meticulous, and it's written by someone who refers to himself as an old software plumber.
I mean, I love that title, software
Yeah.
plumber. It just evokes this image of someone knee-deep in the messy infrastructure of the web, tightening valves and fixing leaks. It feels very gritty.
Exactly.
But the specific post we're looking at today isn't about fixing a server rack. It's actually titled Notes on Fishkeeping, Part 996.
Part 196, yeah.
Right, Part 196. The Effectiveness of Malaysian Pond Snail, Radix SP8, in Controlling Algae.
And that Part 196 is really your first clue that we're dealing with something entirely different here.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't some clickbait article titled, get rid of algae instantly. This is entry 196 in a continuous, ongoing logbook.
Yeah, and if you look at the sidebar on his site, it's wild. I mean, he has notes on Rust programming, notes on meditation, notes on gardening, notes on AI.
Notes on dieting, too.
Yes, dieting. It's like Da Vinci's notebook if Da Vinci was a coder living in 2026.
Precisely. And that context is really critical for us today. We aren't just analyzing how to clean a fish tank.
No.
We're analyzing how a systems architect, someone who thinks in terms of code and logic and debugging, approaches a biological system.
It's really about what happens when you apply the philosophy of open source software to a living ecosystem.
That's the core mission of this deep dive.
So let's set the stage a bit. The villain of this story is the absolute bane of every aquarium owner's existence.
Algae.
Algae. The universal antagonist?
Oh, absolutely.
I think anyone who's ever kept fish knows this pain. You buy the expensive glass tank, the fancy lights, the colorful fish. You want that crystal clear, floating in air look.
The pristine look.
Right. But then 2 weeks later, the glass is covered in this brown dust, or there's a green haze on everything. It looks neglected. It smells swampy.
It's gross.
It's just gross.
And honestly, it is the moment most people quit the hobby entirely.
I believe it.
Because we tend to view an aquarium as a static object, like a painting.
Oh, that's a good point.
We want it to stay exactly how we set it up. But biology is dynamic. When algae appears, we view it as a failure.
We think the system is broken, I need to fix it.
Exactly. And usually that means scrubbing, pouring in chemicals, or just tearing the whole thing down in frustration.
And Ang, the author, he admits he used to be that guy.
He did.
He says many moons ago, algae was a constant headache. He was chasing that sterile look. But, and here's where the software plumber brain really kicks in, he didn't just keep scrubbing.
He changed the paradigm.
Yes. He writes, we no longer see algae as an issue.
This is the pivot. In software, we talk a lot about bugs versus features.
Right.
A bug is an error that breaks the program. A feature is intended functionality. Ang realized that algae isn't a bug.
It's a feature of the aquatic operating system.
Exactly. It's a natural occurrence. And he did a root cause analysis. He realized it's caused by specific inputs, usually overfeeding the fish or too much exposure to light, whether that's sunlight or LEDs.
And he actually goes a step further. He calls it a vital, natural food source for his fry the baby fish.
Which makes perfect biological sense.
It does. In the wild, nobody is sprinkling processed flakes into a river. Baby fish survive on microgum.
They do. He realized that by endlessly scrubbing the tank, he was literally deleting the food source for his fish.
Wow.
He was trying to maintain this sterile environment that was actually much harder to keep stable.
But, and this is the big, but for most people, you still want to see your fish.
Of course.
You can't just let the green dust take over the front glass completely.
Right. You need a management strategy.
So he needs a way to manage it. But instead of grabbing a sponge, which is manual labor, he decides to basically automate the process.
That's the perfect way to phrase it. If you're a sysadmin and you have a log file that fills up your hard drive every week, you don't manually delete it every Friday.
No, you write a script.
You write a cron job to rotate the logs automatically. Ang needed a biological cron job.
A background process that runs 24/7 to clear the cache.
Enter the Malaysian Pond Snail.
Radix, sec me.
Yes.
Now, hold on, because when I hear pond snail, I immediately think pest.
Most people do.
If you go to any aquarium forum, people are terrified of these things. They say, oh no, I got snails on my plants. How do I nuke the tank?
They're treated like the bedbugs of the aquarium world.
Exactly. So is he seriously suggesting introducing a pest on purpose?
Well, that is the conventional wisdom. That's snails equal infestation.
Yeah.
But Ang doesn't care about the stigma. He only cares about the function.
Right, he's looking at the utility.
He looks at the Radix snail and asks, what is your function in this system?
And what is its function, aside from reproducing like crazy?
Let's look at the hardware. This specific snail has a radula.
A radula.
Think of it as a tongue covered in microscopic teeth. It evolved specifically to scrape biofilm and algae off surfaces.
Fascinating.
And Ang notes in his log that it is remarkably effective at clearing two specific types of bugs in his system.
The brown diatoms and the green dust algae.
Yes.
Oh man, the brown diatoms, I know those. That's that rusty, gritty stuff that coats literally everything in a new tank setup.
That's relentless.
You wipe it off, and it is back the very next morning.
Biologically, diatoms feed on silicates. They are super common in new setups, and most people fight them manually for months.
But Ang just deployed a unit that eats them.
Precisely. And then there's the green dust algae. That's the stuff that makes the glass look super foggy.
Right, and if you scrub that, the spores just float into the water column and settle somewhere else.
It's like trying to sweep dust in a wind tunnel.
But the snail actually consumes it.
It digests it, it processes the code, it turns the waste algae into snail waste, which then feeds the bacteria in the filter.
Which then becomes nitrates to feed his live plants.
He is closing the loop. He's turning a waste product into fuel for the entire system.
I'm really starting to see the logic here. But let's go back to how he actually got them in the first place. Because he didn't order these from some lab.
No, he didn't.
He didn't go to a high-end aquascaping store either. He says they were hitchhikers.
This is one of my favorite parts of his documentation. He bought some plants, specifically common salvinia, which is a floating plant.
Right.
He got them either from a local store or transferred them from his outdoor ponds. And the juvenile snails were just attached.
Which is usually the moment of sheer panic for an aquarist. You see a tiny snail on your new plant and you just scream.
You start dipping the plants in bleach solutions.
You try to quarantine everything.
That is the sterile system mindset again.
Mm-hmm.
You want total control. You want to be the absolute god of the tank.
But Ang has his software plumber hat on.
He calls it the happy accident.
I love that.
In science and in coding, sometimes the very best solutions aren't the ones you carefully architect. They're the ones that just emerge organically.
So he sees this intruder, this hitchhiker, and instead of hitting delete, he decides to run a diagnostic.
He just observes it.
And he actually has a control group.
He does. He notices that his outdoor ponds, the ones that already have these native snails in them, have clearer water and healthier fish than his indoor tanks.
He connects the dots.
He thinks maybe this pest is actually the reason the outdoor system is so stable.
So he inadvertently introduces them to his indoor breeding tanks. And he watches. He sets up an A/B test, basically.
Exactly. Tank A has no snails, and the glass is dirty. Tank B has the hitchhiker, and the glass is pristine.
It's a highly successful patch deployment.
It is. But here is where the skepticism usually comes back in. You mentioned it earlier. The reproduction.
Yeah, the horror story. You start with one tiny snail, and a month later, the glass is crawling with hundreds of them. It stops looking like a fish tank and starts looking like a snail farm. And Ang mentions that Radix SP is hermaphroditic.
They possess both male and female reproductive organs.
Which implies what exactly for the scale of this?
It means they are incredibly efficient at scaling up. Ang writes that a single individual can boot up an entire colony on its own.
Wow.
From a biological standpoint, this is a massive survival superpower.
I bet.
If one snail gets washed into a new puddle during a rainstorm, it can populate that entire puddle without needing to find a mate.
From a software standpoint, though, that sounds like a virus. It's self-replicating code that copies itself until it consumes all the system resources. Doesn't that worry him at all?
It would worry a novice. A novice sees exponential growth and immediately panics. But Ang is a sysadmin. He understands load balancing. He knows that the population will only grow as long as there are resources, the algae.
So if they eat all the algae, the population stalls out.
It's entirely self-regulating.
But he does admit he steps in sometimes. He says if the population gets quote-unquote too large, he moves them.
And this is a very crucial nuance. Notice he doesn't kill them.
Yeah.
He doesn't flush them down the drain. He moves them to other tanks or outdoor ponds to create a more balanced ecosystem elsewhere.
Create a more balanced ecosystem elsewhere. It's just so calm.
It's brilliant resource management.
Yeah.
Think of his aquarium room as a server farm.
Okay.
Tank A is running a high load, lots of algae. Tank B is perfectly clean. He moves the processing power, the snails, from Tank A to Tank B.
Or he moves them to the cloud, the outdoor pond.
Exactly. He treats the snails as employees, not enemies.
It's a total shift in the definition of maintenance.
It really is.
For most of us, maintenance means cleaning up the mess. It's purely reactive. But for Aang, maintenance is just tweaking the parameters of the system so it cleans itself.
Ideally, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's the difference between manual memory management in old C++ code, where you have to manually allocate and free every block of memory.
Which is super prone to errors.
Very prone to errors. Compare that to modern languages like Rust, which Aang also writes notes about.
Right.
Rust has an ownership model that handles memory safety automatically. The snails are the Rust compiler for his fish tank.
They handle the garbage collection, so he doesn't have to.
Exactly.
I want to zoom out a bit to the source itself again, because we keep mentioning Part 196, notes on Rust, notes on gardening.
Yeah.
This isn't just a quirky little blog. It's a massive, massive archive.
The sheer volume of data is staggering. I was looking through the archives on his site. In 2024 alone, he posted 732 times.
732.
And in 2025, another 730 posts.
That is obsessive. That's 2 posts a day, every single day, for years.
It is logging. In the tech world, logs are absolutely everything.
Right. If a server crashes, you check the logs.
If a security breach happens, you check the logs.
Right.
Aang is logging his life. He's logging his hobbies. And because he has this massive longitudinal data set, he can spot patterns that a casual observer would completely miss.
That makes so much sense. If you just buy a fish tank today and see algae tomorrow, you panic.
Right.
But if you have 15 years of logs showing that algae blooms consistently happen in month 2 and naturally recede in month 4, you can just sit back and wait.
It gives him the confidence to be patient. When he says his approach is to let them be for now, that isn't laziness.
It's wisdom derived from data.
He knows the system will stabilize because he has seen it happen 100 times in his own logs.
It's so interesting how his different interests intersect. Notes on meditation is right there next to notes on fishkeeping.
Yes.
You can really see how the meditation practice, the observation, the non-interference bleeds into how he handles the snails.
And notes on gardening, too. A garden is an ecosystem. You cannot control every single aphid.
You have to cultivate the ladybugs to eat the aphids.
It's all the exact same philosophy. You're not the builder of the machine. You are the gardener of the system. You nurture the conditions for success, but you let the biology do the actual work.
It really makes you wonder about the cleanliness we are all so obsessed with. We use antibacterial soap, we scrub our counters, we want our lawns to be these perfect monocultures of green grass.
We are constantly fighting the hitchhikers.
Constantly.
And usually, by fighting them, we make the system far more fragile.
How so?
Well, a sterile tank crashes much faster than a dirty one. If Aang's tank has a sudden spike in ammonia, the plants, the snails, the bacteria, they all absorb the shock together.
In a sterile tank, the fish just die.
Exactly. He has built an anti-fragile system.
Anti-fragile. That is the perfect word for it. It gets stronger with stress, or at least it can easily handle the stress.
And the Radix snail is the key agent of that anti-fragility. It turns the stressor, the algae, into stability.
I do have to ask, though, about the aesthetic. Does he talk about the look of the snails? Because some people just cannot stand seeing shells all over the glass.
He is a pragmatist above all else. The title of the post is The Effectiveness of Malaysian Pond Snail.
He cares about the result.
But I would argue there is a certain deep beauty in a functioning system. When you look at a tank and you see a clear front glass, not because you spent an hour scrubbing it, but because a colony of living creatures is grazing on it.
That's a very different kind of aesthetic.
It's the aesthetic of a healthy machine.
The beauty of efficient code.
Exactly. Elegant code isn't always the absolute shortest. It's the code that handles errors without crashing.
So we've got a guy who treats his aquarium like open source software. He finds a bug algae. He identifies a patch, the snail.
Right.
The patch was a happy accident that he discovered through diligent logging and observation. He deploys the patch. He monitors the performance.
And when the patch scales too much, he load balances it to another server, the outdoor pond.
That is just brilliant.
And the most important part, he shares the documentation.
He writes the blog post.
He contributes back to the public knowledge base.
That is the ultimate open source ethos. Floss-free, libre open source software. He mentions that right in his bio. He believes in sharing knowledge freely.
And notice the humility in it, too. He signs off, yours truly, Aang. He includes a disclaimer that these are just his personal observations.
He isn't trying to sell you Aang's magic algae killer for 20 bucks.
He's just saying, here's my log, here is what worked for me, fork this repository if you want to try it yourself.
It is so refreshing compared to the expert culture we usually see online, where everyone pretends to have the ultimate definitive answer.
He's just a tinkerer sharing his notes with the world.
A tinkerer with 730 posts a year.
A very disciplined tinkerer.
But that's the real takeaway for you listening, isn't it? You don't need to be a marine biologist to understand your aquarium.
Not at all.
You just need to be observant. You need to document what you see. And you need to be willing to challenge your own assumptions about what is a pest and what is a partner.
I think that applies to a lot more than just tanks.
I'm definitely looking at my garden weeds differently after reading this. I'm looking out the window thinking, what are you doing out there? What data point are you providing?
That is exactly the right question to ask. Is that dandelion a weed, or is it a taproot bringing up calcium from the subsoil?
Is it a bug or is it a feature?
So let's wrap this up with a bit of a challenge for the listener. We've talked a lot about fish and snails today, but the core principles here, systems, thinking, debugging, embracing happy accidents, they apply to everything.
Absolutely. We want you to think about the algae in your own lives. What is the recurring annoyance, the mess that keeps coming back no matter how hard you scrub?
Maybe it's a completely chaotic email inbox. Maybe it's a repetitive task at work that eats up all your Friday afternoons.
Maybe it's a specific conflict that just keeps happening with your kids.
The standard human reaction is to just scrub harder, work longer hours, yell louder, delete more emails manually.
That's the manual maintenance trap we fall into.
So what is the snail solution?
The snail solution is to step back and ask, why is this happening? And is there a mechanism I can introduce that actually uses this energy?
If your inbox is overflowing, maybe the answer isn't to read faster. Maybe the answer is a filter rule, a script that sorts it for you automatically.
Or maybe the mess is actually a signal, just like the algae.
Right.
Maybe your burnout is telling you that the lights are on too high, you're overworking, and you don't need a snail at all. You just need to dim the lights.
Precisely. Stop fighting the surface symptoms and look at the system inputs. And be open to the hitchhikers.
Yes, the hitchhiker.
Sometimes the solution to your problem is something that just fell into your lap. A new tool, a random suggestion from a colleague that you initially dismissed as a pest or a distraction.
Like saying, I don't have time to learn that new software. That is the pest reaction.
Right. But maybe that new software is the Radix snail that will eat your manual data entry tasks forever.
Trust the ecosystem, trust the data, and maybe, just maybe, trust the snails.
Within reason. Do keep an eye on the population count.
And always have a backup pond ready, just in case.
Always have a backup pond.
Thanks for diving in with us. I'm going to go check my own tank logs now.
Keep tinkering.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.